Hey guys, it's Jess. I thought I'd do a really quick how-to or tips and tricks sort of video for a crow pose. So I'm going to demonstrate crow pose first so you can see what we're going to be working on. Looks like getting your knees on your elbows and lifting your feet off the floor. Okay, so maybe it looks like that today, maybe it looks like that next year. What we're going to focus on today is like how you work towards that pose and where you can put some building blocks into your practice every single day. So first we will start with a chaturanga push-up. So you may notice, I don't know if you're new to yoga, you see us lowering down into push-up. Our elbows are way back, right in line with the ribs. So we feel the elbows graze the outsides of the ribs every time we lower down. Doesn't look like a traditional push-up with the elbows way out to the sides and the wrists on a different angle. It looks like pulling the elbows back. And so that's really important to get the handle of a really strong chaturanga before you attempt to do a crow pose. So kind of like, it's just really humbling practicing these arm balances or inversions. You really have to go back to the base level practices. So getting strong arms, strong core, and putting all the pieces together to then get to crow, okay? So we would want to have a really good understanding of chaturanga first. So it looks like from the high push-up, a high plank, you would spread out your fingers really wide. Make your pointer fingers parallel with the edges of your mat, and then wrap your fingers really wide. Pinkies go towards the edges of the mat. Then I would drop my hips down in line, my shoulders, pull the low belly in, and I'm going to lower halfway down and hover. I'm going to look at my elbows to see, so not quite halfway, too far here. So you want to hover so that you're at a 90-degree angle and your hips don't go too high. They're in line here. Pull the low belly in. Then you would shift to upward facing dog or a cobra, and then back to downward facing dog if you were doing a vinyasa, right? So what we commonly see is a high push-up through chaturanga look like this. Okay, so that's giving the arms a really big break. Or we sometimes see chaturanga look like this, really big break in the arms, so they're barely bending. There's not enough strength there for me to hold myself at the 90-degree. What you can do in your vinyasas to create good habits around chaturanga, to get that full range of motion, that full pause at the bottom of your exhale, would be to support yourself with your knees. So you inhale, exhale, hold, inhale, upward facing, exhale, move to downward facing, and then you just keep practicing that. You could do just chaturanga push-ups, so a few reps every day. So just high push-up to chaturanga, high push-up, chaturanga, and you could use your knees to get back up, but keep this form, okay? So what happens is there's muscles here at the insides of the arms all the way up to the pec muscles that keep the elbows in, that keep this space, and this creates a good shelf for your knees, okay? So we want the elbows back instead of way out here. Okay, number two, so that's arms. I'm already breathing too hard. Number two, the core. So a lot of times we think we just have to find that right point of balance and we'll nail it, but really it comes from the core. So what you could do to practice that, any core work you'd like to do, and also I like to imagine as if I am doing crow from my back and the ceiling is kind of like the floor. So I would take my feet off the ground, my big toes are going to be together to touch. My hands are going to be palming the ceiling, like towards the ceiling, like I am gripping the floor, same way, so same distance as you would be if you were on the floor with your hands. And then I will take my knees wide, and then I will exhale as I crunch up. And now my goal here is to crunch up so high, and then draw the knees in that I let the knees hit the backs of the arms. And maybe that's not today, maybe that's tomorrow, or another day, but you're working towards that. So you would exhale, low belly down, you maybe be here, or do the extra crunch, hold here. Okay? And you could do reps of these, up and down, looking up and down, or you could do
like a hold. So you would crunch up and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that gives you an idea of which core muscles have to work while you're in crow, what ab muscles you're trying to turn on while you're in crow, okay? So, one more time. Do crow with a block, okay? So we'll start to move into the posture, and some ways that you can modify or to get there if you're ready to practice crow would be to use blocks. Now, some people like a block under their head. I see that a lot in the studio. I think in a group setting, especially, you're like worried about flipping over forward, and that's okay. So we see that a lot. What I think helps most would be to get your feet up on a block. So I have a thick, heavy block here. I would take it horizontally and then take my big toes, my feet up onto it, and then crouch down. So I want my toes out and my heels in so my knees go out wide. So this lifts me up. So this does the work of like lifting the lower body up to give me a little head start to getting, you have to kind of go up and forward when you're in crow. So this is a little head start to be on the block, okay? So I would get on the block. You can have this here in case you fall forward. You're gonna put it about a foot in front of your fingers, okay? And then you're gonna palm the earth, really wide hands, wide fingers, lift your hips up, and then start to bend your elbows into that chaturanga shape. Then you would just stay here. So then you would play with working your core that same way, and then lifting one set of toes up, and then the other set up, or maybe both. And when you start, it may look more like, my blocked, come here more. It may look more like this. And then you could lift one up, and another, and then come down, and then practice again. So when you first start, it may look more like wider elbows, wider knees, lower body, and that's okay, you're just getting the hang of it. As you progress, you will take the knees all the way to the backs of the triceps, maybe even the armpits. You'll lift the hips up higher to start, and you'll look forward as you lift, okay? And then the core comes and you point the toes, lift up, and then come down. So try it out and send us any questions if you have them. Thanks, guys.